All right, everyone. It appears imminent that the United States is going to end up in some sort of conflict with the nation of Venezuela. To say that I am displeased by this would be an understatement. I do not believe in more wars for oil, and that's pretty much what it would be about. Attacking narco ships is perfectly fine, and I am no friend of Maduro. I think, again, everyone already knows this. I hate communism. Maduro should be hanged. That being said, is our involvement really going to be helpful and meaningful in that particular sense? Should we do like the nation building thing? My answer is no. I don't have any problem, for example, apparently they're trying to say that an admiral was the one that actually concocted the plan to re-attack the last narco vessel that was blown out of the water because there were survivors. He took that initiative himself. At least that's what Hegseth and others are claiming. That's fine. I have no problem with it. They're drug smugglers. And I love because I read this one article this morning while I was doing my news crawl, and I'll be talking about this a little bit more probably later on in the live stream. They're like, well, there's no evidence of fentanyl being run into the United States. These were just cocaine traffickers. All right. What an improvement. I think that we can make our own cocaine in the United States. I do not support the drug war, but seriously, the southern Floridian climate in parts of Texas and California, you could grow coca plants there fairly easily. I don't understand why we need to import drugs. Don't we have to import everything else from China anyway to begin with? Can we at least make our own fucking drugs? I don't know. Apparently, it's a big mystery to the people in DC and on Wall Street, by the way. But going into Venezuela and conducting airstrikes is just inviting diplomatic punishment. Venezuela is not capable of standing up to the United States in the military sense, not even close. But then you risk them growing even closer to China. They've already built a base in Nicaragua, and I believe there's another, if I remember correctly, in Venezuela, actually, already. If we get into a confrontation directly with the Chinese, that could be terrible for economic purposes. We would win, but at what cost? This is what you have to look at when you're talking about geopolitics. And this is what a rational, sane person does. Risk, reward. Is the reward greater than the risk? Then maybe you take the risk. If the risk is greater or it is significant enough to give you pause, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's basic pragmatism. It's elementary. I mean, a grade schooler could understand the basic purpose. Criminals act in the same way, for example. If they think they can get away with the crime, or if the crime is particularly lucrative, it's more likely to happen. This is why we attempt to dissuade people from criminal action. In some cases, those shouldn't be crimes at all, by the way. Again, like minor possession. Oh my God, you have a couple grams of weed on you? You're a hardened criminal. Let's spend hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars to prosecute you. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Never did. But as far as Venezuela goes, what I'm concerned about is that this has to do with oil. Venezuela has one of the largest reserves of oil in the world, and it happens to be a very sour oil, by the way. The United States produces an enormous amount of oil, but mainly it's just used for gasoline. Venezuelan oil, meanwhile, because of its consistency, is better for like diesel and stuff like that. Well, we do need that. I mean, they're trying to turn all the trucks into electric powered vehicles, which is a crazy idea, by the way, and make them self-driving, which is even crazier. But we do need some of that sour crude. Uh, but we don't need to attack Venezuela to get it. I can remember back during, I believe, the Bush era, Venezuela was shipping oil directly to New York in order to prop them up. And it was actually funny. I think that was under Chavez at the time, if I remember correctly. Maduro's a madman. I have no love for him. If he died today, I would chuckle. But at the same time, the fact that I have a problem with the Venezuelan government does not compel me to believe that it's a good idea that the United States should invade Venezuela. Now, when Trump talks about a land war, by the way, and this should be mentioned, he's not talking about a physical, like D-Day style invasion. That would be a bad idea. But it would be also a bad idea to run drone strikes, airstrikes, etc. on cartel locales there in Venezuela. The Maduro regime has made it quite clear that they're going to sponsor drug dealers to come to the United States. It really doesn't matter whether it's fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, whatever the hell it happens to be. Again, we can make our own goddamn drugs. What really matters, though, is the pragmatism involved. If you can already bullseye the ships out of the water, and, the Europeans will bitch about it. It's been happening this entire time. Oh my God, it's a war crime. It's a terrible, terrible thing. That's one thing. That's perfectly fine. The Europeans bitch about everything that the United States does. It happens all the time. Once you get to the point where you're conducting strikes on their actual land area, so this is within their national waters and or on land, generally speaking, then it becomes a different animal. We don't need to, though. We've already proven, under the Trump administration, we've shown we have the military capability to simply blow up the ships that are coming here. In some cases, they might not be trafficking narcotics at all. I'm hoping that Rubio's intel on this particular topic is top of the line. I have reasonable faith in the administration to do that. But I can't have faith in the administration if we end up in a situation where we're conducting drone strikes on coca plantations. It doesn't make any sense because we don't need to. If the drugs are being used internally, or they're going throughout South America or something like that, they're being shipped to Brazil. Not our problem. Under the Monroe Doctrine, I understand we're the safeguard of the entire, hemisphere. That's perfectly great. Wonderful. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't, like if I was president of the United States, I would say, the drug war is a failure anyway, so we'll just get rid of that. I don't really care if they give drugs to a bunch of Brazilians or Argentinians or something like that. Means absolutely nothing to me. Not my country, not my problem, should be the slogan of every country. If every country had that slogan, there'd be a lot less wars going on now, wouldn't there? But at the same time, while we still have those laws in place, and while Venezuela is under the control of, tight-ass communists, blowing the boats out of the water is perfectly fine with me, but not a land war. It makes no sense. I don't even understand who dreamed up the concept. I realize that the United States has a problem with Venezuela, and Trump uniquely does as well. I understand this, but it's not pragmatic. It will not work. What's going to end up happening is we'll bullseye some cartel members. Venezuela will attempt to retaliate and fail, and it will become a huge diplomatic crisis. That's exactly what's going to happen. And the writing's already on the wall. It's not difficult to tell what'll happen. We've tried this before. We've tried it in Central America. We've tried it in the Middle East. We've tried it in Southern Asia. We've tried it in Central Asia. It does not work. The problem is not that you're not trying to do something that may be justified. The problem is the carry through. And that's really the problem of things like nation building and stuff. It costs us 100,000 million times more to act in a foreign country than it takes for that foreign country to act against us. What'll end up happening? Let's say you staged a land invasion of Venezuela. What's going to happen? Maduro has heavily armed hundreds of thousands of militia members down there, communist militia, uh, specifically for this particular purpose. That's going to be a little bit difficult to deal with. Now, is our militia a lot more powerful than theirs? Hell yeah. 100 million versus a couple 100,000, that's rather lopsided. But that's for domestic invasion. Unless you want to activate the militia and, I don't know, armor a bunch of fishing trawlers and, storm the shores or something, I don't exactly understand what we accomplish by going after the people that are growing and manufacturing drugs when we can already take care of them when they're in international waters. I believe that this is predicated upon oil more than anything else. We're going to be capable of securing Venezuelan oil if necessary to do so, simply through diplomacy. It is possible to do. Other administrations have done it. So I don't personally see the logic in conducting strikes on Venezuela proper. Bullseye the boats, get rid of the fentanyl, and it is fentanyl. Huffington Post can claim otherwise, but they're always wrong, just like Paul Krugman. So whatever, and that other dude. Yeah, some liberal commentators are more accurate than others. He's not one of them. Oh, the internet's going to be the same as the fax machine. That was a funny time now, wasn't it? But direct strikes on Venezuela, I'm sorry, that's a road that I can't go down. Generally support the Trump administration, but I cannot support a land war against the Venezuelans. It really does not make any sense. Pragmatically, strategically speaking, it's nonsensical, which is probably why the GOP would go along with it, by the way. That's about all. Peace out.